So Polygon was the first like layer 2 essentially to run on top of Ethereum to ensure that you could do more transactions. And it was twofold, right? It almost provided like a live test net that was a mainnet.
Impossible. You never know till you try.
GM Nill, thanks a lot for accepting this invite. You are a really good influence on CT. You bring a lot of possibility or positivity to the space, and I really wanted to have this conversation with you. How are you today, Nill?
Doing well, brother. I appreciate the invite, obviously. And yeah, I'm just doing the work that needs to get done to make sure that, Twitter, X, all the communities that are involved feel that there's always a person that they can rely on for positive influence, market insights, just kind of a little bit of ecosystem knowledge as well. So always here to be a little bit of a different perspective on how we approach our experience here in Web3.
Yeah, and also I love the fact that you're always educating people on how should they actually do their personal brand, how should they act on Twitter, how should they become a better person each day.
Yeah, it's definitely something I don't know. I like to reflect on like my experience. I've been on obviously X for a long time, so it's been like 5 years since I've been growing my own account, and I've grown a lot of like branded accounts as well, right, for my previous work that I've done. So I always just try to approach it from a very personalized perspective because that's what's worked for me. Like people really resonate when they know there's somebody that they can trust, right? Like, and that's why I've always been approaching it that direction. And if it's working for me, it's working for other people. And there's a lot of evidence that, from other KOLs and influencers that's a great way to grow. So that's how I approach it every single day.
Yeah, and especially in an industry where things can be shady sometimes, it's good to actually see people that bring some shyness at the end of the day.
Yeah, greatly appreciate that, man. And the work that you all are doing is awesome too. I was reviewing some of the interviews, some teams that I'm really believe in. Safari Club was one of the ones that I recently viewed, and all the teams that are involved here. Like, definitely see you all doing the work. So excited to have the conversation with us here today as well.
Yeah, I usually like to start from the start, Neil, because I see crypto people actually in two categories: the people that were born into crypto, like let's say more like Gen Z stuff, and the people that are actually had like a career and did something else before they joined crypto, like more like millennials. And I want to see who were you before crypto, what first pulled you into this crypto rabbit hole that went.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to give the story. So like it's unique to me, but not unique to everybody. So it kind of reflects a lot of different areas. So I entered the ecosystem from like two different perspectives, right? Like on the token side, like investing and jumping into different projects, I was involved like early on during like the GameStop AMC like stock market craze, right? So a lot of people tell the story of like, oh, like GameStop AMC, there was like a short squeeze situation. Everyone was investing and moving things very aggressively. And during that process, there was a lot of like market influence that stopped people from, investing, and there were pauses in the market. And there was a lot of like influence from institutions that like essentially didn't allow people to move their money the way they wanted to, right? But I was following a lot of like YouTubers and streamers and people that were covering the story, and a lot of them were like, yo, like, this is one portion of this, but if you all enjoy like the aspect of like showing like why people can influence a market, you all should also look at crypto. And so that got me like looking into like Ethereum and the purpose behind Bitcoin, and involved in like the Doge community and what that means overall. So I was like very involved on that side for a long time, and that was just plainly on like tossing money at coins and hoping for the best, right? Like that was
What year was this?
What year was this? This was 2020. Yeah. So yeah, basically, so 5 years ago, almost exactly, a little bit longer at this point now. But we were at home in the middle of COVID. I was working remote. Like I had time, right? To just kind of like sit still and learn on stuff. So that's where my focus really was. That was like the token side of things. But as far as like getting into like the technology itself and like what blockchain means overall, as we all were during that like 2020, 2021 time, I was like, my hands were very idle. I was looking for something to do. So I was like doing a little bit of sports betting, as any degenerate typically does. I was in DraftKings, and yeah, I'm betting on like NBA bubble games, right, where everyone's like, that's the only thing that was going on, right, for sports. So I'm like jumping into these like different games, and the DraftKings app, like, you know, it sent me a notification. It was like, hey, we just opened up an NFT marketplace. And I was like, okay, like I've heard this word before because I'm interested in crypto, like NFTs. What does that mean? And so I jumped into the marketplace, and they were super simple, like little digital trading cards of like Wayne Gretzky, Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, like really significant athletes, right? And I said, okay, like I don't really get what these are yet. I know they're like digital representations of like physical people. Like that's interesting to me. So I bought a bunch of them, right? I think I bought like, you know, 20 or 30 of them at like $10, a couple at $40, a couple at like $100. And you could buy them all with a credit card, right? So it was very simple transaction, super quick. And they like 10x'd in like a 3-day time frame, right? So like quick flip, made a bunch of money. I was really like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing here. My wife's like, you're crazy. I was like, I know. I really have no idea. I have no idea what's going on here, but it's fun. So like, luckily, the cards had a bunch of details on like blockchain tech and like what they were, what blockchain they were being built on. And this was, again, 5 years ago now, they were built on Polygon, right? And so my very first, like, besides like, I call token like purchasing like a level 1 kind of like integration of like, oh yeah, I bought a token. Like, okay, it's level 1 user interaction with blockchain.
It's like level 1 in GTA, you know.
Literally, it's like, yeah. Like I just did the tutorial, right? And I'm just like figuring out how to like move my character. And then level 2 is like your first blockchain like interaction. And for me, it was the first time I ever bought an NFT, and it was built on Polygon. And so I jumped onto, you know, Twitter at the time. I jumped onto Reddit. I started doing a bunch of research, and I just like fell down the rabbit hole over like what digital ownership really meant. And I fell into a good community of builders that were on Polygon that were like educating like crazy. Like the Ethereum space, the Solana space, that seemed very fast to me. And it was like, hey, we need to move quickly. We need to do this, we need to do that. And I was like, I'm somebody, like, I'm super risk averse, right? I'm not somebody like in this space. I'm like they call me like Unk, right? I'm like 31 years old, so I'm a little bit older than like the generation that's like just buying things quickly and hoping for the best. And once I started interacting on Polygon and realizing that like you didn't have to spend a lot of money on a transaction, I couldn't justify going back. Like I couldn't go over to Ethereum and like mint all these hyped collections, because I was like, I can't spend like $200 on a transaction when the asset itself cost $50. My brain was just like, I can't do that, right? So now would have made some like interesting money on that side, sure. Like I would have caught a bunch of interesting projects and done that stuff. That's fine. But for me, this was all about education and learning like why the blockchain exists. So I stuck with Polygon. I was in a bunch of good communities. They were educating each other, teaching, and I just started like asking interesting questions, right? Like, okay, so what does this mean? How can I be involved? Like, how does this tech really work? And what does the blockchain really mean? And so I dove in deeper, and ever since then, it allowed me to have kind of like a speaking role in this community. And then over time, that just kept accelerating, right? I ended up being a marketing lead for a project, which since has closed, obviously. It's just like how NFT projects go, right? You go to a certain point, then unfortunately they don't work maybe. But, and then on top of that, we had, and then as Polygon continued to evolve and grow, we had a few like big moments, right? And this was all when I was just a community member. We had the Utes migrate over, right? And so the Utes came from Solana.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was a big hype moment for Polygon, right? It was like, we had Polygon NFT season. Like it was like, crazy amount of projects were minting. There was a bunch of like opportunities for people, and I was one of the most prominent like spaces hosts, right? So I was hosting spaces with like 200, 300, 400 people in them. I was talking, I was doing my thing. And then so at that time, like there weren't that many people that were at my like, you know, level of like hosting these spaces. And so Magic Eden reached out, and they were like, hey, like, you know, you seem like you have a good presence. You seem like you have good knowledge for what Polygon does. Could you come on and work at a part-time capacity for what we're doing with Polygon? I was like, yeah, of course. So I started managing different projects, go-to-market strategies, managing socials and all those kind of things. Grew up like a couple different accounts for Magic Eden in general. And that was in a part-time capacity. I did that for about 9 months. And then my kid was born. And I was still working a full-time job in Web 2, right? I was doing marketing analytics and I was doing marketing analytics and press releases. So like messaging was like my biggest thing that I was learning in the Web 2 world. And I reached out to Magic Eden. I was like, hey, I'm a dad now. I don't have much time for like 2 jobs. Like I need to lock into something full go. And they were like, we don't have a head count right now, so it didn't work out on that side. And because I was working with Polygon directly with all their like things that we were doing on Magic Eden, I reached out to my connections at Polygon. I said, hey, like I need something full go. I want to jump in this industry full time. And then about 4 weeks later, I did all my interviews and I was working at Polygon, and the rest is history.
So that was around 2021 or a bit later?
Man, so I've been at so I worked organically in the community for about, I would say, 16 months, from like 2021 until 2023. I joined Magic Eden in 2023 in the spring, worked for about a year there, and then I've been at Polygon for the last 16 months. So I my 1 year was back in July, and I've been doing that ever since.
So what did you take away from building and contributing to an NFT marketplace at the size of Magic Eden, which is one of the biggest, word that you would now apply to an ecosystem growth?
Yeah, I mean, it was really an exciting time for Magic Eden, right? Like, I was a part of a bunch of interesting launches, like NFT markets. They're very different than like the rest of the ecosystem. They rely on like volume, and they rely on a lot of like hype and all those kind of things. And at the time, like Magic Eden, and I still think they have a bunch of momentum and great people over there. But at the time, they had like some of the biggest influencers working for them as well too, right? Chart Fu and Vo and like Johnny and all these people that really like understood that like social movement can help the market move forward. And I learned a lot from like Vo was my direct manager, right? So now she's over at AVAX, and to learn from to learn from somebody like Vo, who was very like, yeah, she has motion on X, right? Like that's one side of what she does, but she's also like really efficient at how she moves with business. Like she coaches people through things very effectively. She strategizes with teams. She knows how to work deal reviews, all those kind of things. And so to learn from her, and then what they end up launching, obviously, is they did the collaboration with Yuga Labs for their NFT Ethereum marketplace, which was like protecting royalties and approaching different things from OpenSea and doing all these different work on that side. And to see like how that was rolled out and to see the hype that came with that, it was a very interesting ability to like support it, right? And we did very similar things on Polygon where we were protecting royalties and doing all those things. Unfortunately, like we know how royalties worked out. Like it wasn't something that could be protected by the platform. It had to be protected on chain. So that kind of evolved. But in general, just learning how you grow and learning how you coach people through this like process, because all you can do, right, is like success in NFTs and success in a lot of areas in Web3. You can apply this like meme coins or like anything else. You can't just like run a playbook and think it's going to work every time, right? Like
no, it's still everything is experimental. It still is. Even if you're mature, it's still experimental.
Yeah, you got to be agile, right? Like you got to like kind of be like, okay, the market's telling me this. Let me move as efficiently as I can. But in the same like vein, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to pivot to that fully, because then you're just changing your roadmap every month, right? So that doesn't make sense either. So you kind of have to just like sway with the times and know when to be more active and when to just provide your people value. So definitely learned a lot from the team, and really thankful that that was my first experience in Web3.
Yeah, and I think the biggest takeaway here for everybody that wants to learn like a good job, because I always try to educate people, is that you actually, if you want to land a good job, you have to be a community member, make a lot of connections, building public, and somebody at some point is gonna recognize you.
Yeah, and I think that's like everyone forgets that, and they just want to jump right into working, right? Like, because the main reason why I've had success is like I have a lot of community trust, right? Like people have said like, okay, like Nill just wasn't somebody that came from nowhere and jumped into Polygon and then like did also like, I came from community, right? So like when I do things and when I move things, when I say things, people are like, yeah, like I know Nill is in our best intentions because he's one of us, right? Which is a very interesting aspect to have.
He has a reputation built in the community that you cannot disagree with.
Yeah, exactly that.
But for someone new to Polygon, how would you explain what Polygon is and what problem it solves in the Ethereum scaling landscape?
Yeah, for sure. So like, and Polygon's evolved a ton over time, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. But like, Polygon was initially launched as the Matic network by Sandeep and the entire founder basis, right? And so the entire goal, and as everyone knows, like Ethereum, and it's getting more efficient every single day. Like it's doing more work as far as how you can handle gas transactions and how it scales and grows and does all these things. But the first solution that was presented was building layers on top of Ethereum to ensure that we could run our transactions more efficiently. So Polygon was the first like layer 2 essentially to run on top of Ethereum to ensure that you could do more transactions. And it was twofold, right? It almost provided like a live test net that was a mainnet, right? So people would like run like little apps on testing how things worked. And if they wanted to move to Ethereum, they could. But then people realized that like you could just consistently run everything on Polygon efficiently, and that you could build businesses and scale products. And it made sense for a lot of teams that you knew they were going to do like, hundreds to thousands to 10,000 transactions per day. And that's what it is, because after that, you realize that you can't do that on Ethereum, which is such a heavier ecosystem. So the teams that really scaled initially, right? You talk about like the OG projects like Zrun. You talk about like Sandbox. You talk about like all these big groups that were doing like, again, tens of thousands of transactions per day. It just saved them a lot of costs overall. And it allowed them to grow their business and focused on like putting their money towards product, right? Which is very how we saw things unique there.
But was it called layer 2s back then?
Yes, initially it was. So like there was a debate of initially when it was like a kind of like a side chain, but it would naturally kind of transitioned into like a full layer 2. But it was essentially called like a layer 2 back then as well too. Again, this is before my time, and I wasn't a part of the initial like Matic network launch. But from my understanding, yeah, that was the initial goal, and that's why Sandeep and everybody kind of approached it. And they again had the direct relationship with the Ethereum Foundation, and the initial launch of Polygon was it's definitely one of those like footnotes in the Ethereum story that was one of the biggest things that ever happened to the Ethereum ecosystem.
Okay, and after that, basically, the transition happened, the migration from Matic to POL. Can you tell us how exactly did it reshape the whole ecosystem?
Yeah, for sure. And so this is like one of those things where as your ecosystem evolves and as you find your needs being different, like you have to adjust your technology, right? And so like Matic Network was the initial platform, right? It was the initial blockchain, so it was the Matic token. Then realizing that branding made more sense to have something that was a little bit more like catchy and widespread, shifted over to Polygon, and so it was Polygon with the Matic token operating. That was fine for a while, but Matic, especially as a token was and how early the launch was, it wasn't as efficient of a token as it potentially could be to scale these transactions, right? So because of how the nature of the token was built, we needed to upgrade the token as well to become like a hyper efficient token in that way. So the migration from Matic to Pol happened, man, over a year ago at this point. It was about a year and 4 months ago where the initial like migration was announced. And at this point, I think 99.95% of Matic has transitioned into Pol. There's a little bit more that's being transitioned on Coinbase within the next like 30 days right now. So everything will be Pol at this point. But it's because of those like metrics of becoming more efficient, aligning with the brand overall. So Polygon is Pol, and all those things are aligning now. And also like now we're able to build like more unique activations for Pol holders, right? So like we as an industry and we as an ecosystem, Polygon itself, like we don't speculate on Pol. Like that's not something that we do here as far as like token value. But now the main utility of Pol is obviously the transactions that you can run with the Polygon ecosystem, but it's also that you can stake your Pol and get airdrop rewards from our different communities, right? So people like Billions, people like Maiden, people like Katana, all these brands that have been like grown within the Polygon ecosystem, there's now airdrop allocation to those people that are staking Pol in our community hub.
And also, you could say, like, fast forward, Polygon is now becoming the home of emerging stablecoins. I know that right now this is a big focus on stablecoins and RWAs. I've seen that
Absolutely.
the stablecoin market cap just crossed 3 billion, 15
Yeah.
million holders.
Insane.
What makes Polygon the chain of choice for payments and RWAs, especially in emerging countries?
Yeah, so I think this is very unique, right? And I think this stems back to like our origin story a lot. Like Sandeep came from India, right? Like he was born in a very small town and came up from the ground up. And so he was born in India and a lot of his team is from there, right? And then like as we continued to scale and we found like the perfect like fit for what Polygon was really looking to accomplish, we essentially found that there were a few applications that like it made the most sense to have an efficient layer that was the longest lasting, that was connected to Ethereum, that directly grew our network more effectively, right? And being connected with what Circle does with USDC and Tether with USDT and all these other places like Agora with AUSD, we have these direct relationships. And so a lot of these emerging markets, because of like where Sandeep comes from and like the origin story and all the connections and how diverse, like our company is really worldwide, right? We have a big focus in LATAM as well for cross-border payments, and that's where a good majority of our transactions are coming. And you know, somebody that's in the States, like I talk to my friends about this a lot, when they're like, "Oh, why are you so like excited about what you do at Polygon?" It's like because it's a worldwide like application layer. And for somebody that's in the States right now, like I can send money from like I'm here in Ohio, right? I can send money from Ohio to Florida and not think about it, right? I have Venmo, I have
And in
PayPal.
India,
Yeah, literally, yeah. But even just like stateside, I don't have to worry about transactions and like taxes and things that affect like how my money moves. Where like in LATAM or in APAC or in anywhere around the world, those countries are much more cross-border, right? Like you send money home to your family, businesses move across the border and they do different transactions with businesses. So what stablecoins are obviously providing is they're alleviating all those issues of like losing 20, 30, 40% of the value of your money when they do those cross-border transactions in general. So really because like that's on the stablecoin side, why like in these emerging markets it's taking off. On the RWA side, like what institutions really want is to be exposed to Ethereum, right? Like they want that exposure because they understand the security aspect, how long Ethereum has been here, like what Ethereum stands for, the name, and all those kind of things, right? But they don't want to deal with the transaction costs, right? So who do you go to when you see that you want to be exposed to these ecosystems, but you don't want to pay the exorbitant fees for operating on Ethereum? You go to the longest lasting blockchain that is closest to Ethereum, which is Polygon because of our origin, right? So different things like stocks and bonds, forward equities, banks, like these are the groups that we're seeing pour in by literally the thousands at this point to build all these real world assets from the institution level. And that's why we're seeing so much adoption in that direction.
how do you feel institutions view crypto today versus like 2 3 years ago? I mean, everything shifted like this year. Everything shifted this year. I mean, from cyberpunk to what actually happens now, we've gained a lot of trust, and especially in the stablecoin sector. What do you feel has happened and shifted everything?
Man, I just think that like tech takes time. You know what I mean? And people took a long time to absorb that they needed the internet to live. Now, like, you know, we talk about the necessities to life, right? It's like food, water, shelter, internet. Like it's honestly like that really like that's how important. And that's like I'm pretty sure like on the national scale, like people say that internet is one of the necessities to life at this point because of how much data and how much news you can absorb and all these things, for better or worse, right? But overall, I think that like naturally, because it took people, you know, 10 to 20 years from like 1990 like two, whenever like AOL was launching and like internet was coming online and all these kind of things, into like where we are now. It took like 10, 20 years for people to accept like internet is a necessity, right? And as we know, like tech exponentially grows. So like as tech continues to advance, that's why AI is getting more advanced. Like as the time like goes on, the time frames between how much faster tech is absorbed is quickening, right? And so the same will apply to crypto, and it's applying to it right now with blockchain technology. I say that this cycle is like the foundational cycle where everyone's like calling for mass adoption and saying like everybody should be using crypto. That's fine. I want that eventually. And I think that's good. We'll see that eventually. But right now we're laying down the foundation for like what regulation looks like, why stablecoin transactions make the most sense, why institutions are jumping in so aggressively. And I think because of that acceptance of tech, because of the acknowledgement of how much more efficient you can operate your systems with, they're seeing this as the next natural course for how these groups will move, transact, and why it should move into blockchain technology.
Do you think this kind of movement is gonna kill the trenches?
That's such a funny question. Man, like, so the trenches will never die, because speculation will always exist. And you see this in the stock market. You see this in people that early called Tesla and Nvidia and like all these other stocks that are like exploding right now, and they're in the tech sector, right? Like the S&P 500 and all these areas, right? That's 100% like
Nvidia looks like a honeypot, man.
dude, it's insane at this point. Like Palantir is the next move. Like everyone's doing stuff on that side, right? But like it could. That's if you see the growth, you would say like this looks like it should be like this is a Ponzi, right? But like it's obviously not. Like it does a lot of good stuff with like chips and all the things they do on their side. So like my estimation is that like there will still be a very speculative market inside of like people call it like internet capital markets, right? Like people will still. Yeah, that's what it is, right? And there's always going to be speculators that do the same in stocks. So there's always going to be speculators that do the same with like virality of memes. Like that's all that meme coins are. That's all that like new token launches are there. Does this have the momentum to carry weight long term? Right. And my estimation is because of like the culture that we have here in crypto and like it's younger generations, it's people that have realized that like they might not be able to make it if they don't take big like swings, right? And take big risks, that subculture will always exist. And I think it's important, honestly. I'm not somebody that like goes into the trenches and looks at meme scopes and goes on pump fun. It doesn't interest me because again, I'm 31, I'm a dad, I'm older. it just isn't something that is like my attraction.
You actually have responsibilities.
That's what I'm saying. Like if I didn't have any responsibilities, let me tell you, I'd be clicking all the buttons in the world. You know what I mean? But I have a responsibility to like my family to provide for them and make sure I get out with like not everything going to zero, right? So like when I look at all this, like I don't participate, but I understand that they're important because they are a cultural layer to how we operate here, which is like it makes us very unique. It makes us like it gives like it's why like big brands consider jumping into crypto because they know there's a very interesting like I call it like the Web3 effect, right? That we can actually have when we activate these brands, right? The best example is like when Pudgy Penguins launched their plushie collection. Walmart saw the highest amount of engagement on their Twitter account they've ever seen with that announcement, right? So like it's the Web3 effect of these people that like want to back something and believe in it and see people momentum and like push it forward. Now, are we still like in our own camps? Is it still sometimes a little blockchain v blockchain? Yeah, absolutely. That's human nature. We want to be like in these tribes and operate and kind of be like you versus me. But in the same vein, people also still believe that we can push this ecosystem forward together as like in unison. So again, I believe these will always exist. They're just going to be different subcultures of how it operates in the greater whole. Right now, it's like a massive one. It's going to scale down eventually as things continue to grow.
Totally agree. I actually thought about you as being a trencher, but you obviously are not.
Listen, I've had my times. Listen, like when all the original meme coins were running, and there was like just the thing is
no pump fun launch pads, everything.
Not nowadays, man. Like it's just so much more diluted now, right? Like they did a study, and Camel, one of like the most significant like KOLs out there, he works over at Sugartown. He put out an announcement that said only 310 meme coins that have been launched on Pump Fun are above 100K market cap at this point. And there's been tens of millions of meme coins launched on Pump Fun, right? So you're telling me only a 300 plus of them have survived and got past 100K market cap? That's insane, right? So just knowing those numbers and seeing them, I'm not going to be somebody that's glued to my screen and trading these things right as they launch. It's just not something I have the skill or a time to do. So I'm going to make my money by being a professional. I'm going to make my money through connections, airdrops, campaigns. Like that's where I'd much more focus my time of effort by education.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's just the same thing that happens in crypto in general. It's kind of the same liquidity that we had in 2021, but it's more diluted. Too many layer ones, too many meme coins, too many too many dApps, too many vesting schedules that actually put pressure on prices, and we don't have any kind of buy pressure. So that's where we are right now. But it is what it is.
Exactly. It's dilution, fragmentation, all things that we're trying to solve at Polygon slowly with some of our solutions.
Sandeep announced like 1 month ago, something like that, that Ziki AVM is being deprecated in favor of a tighter focus on AgLayer. What exactly is AgLayer and what does it unlock?
Yeah, so I always like to provide clarification here. Obviously, like zero knowledge and zero knowledge proofs is something that we've fostered that, right? We built that, and now everyone that's using zero knowledge is like utilizing tech that we've created. And so the activity on ZK EVM just like wasn't as much as we thought it would be, right? Like it just wasn't as efficient as a tech stack because it kind of was just launched, or as a chain, excuse me. It was just kind of launched, and then like there wasn't much of a push on it because people just didn't know what to utilize it for, right? So like obviously we put that focus, and what Mark and Sandeep and all of our leadership have really done recently is taken the approach that like you can't just be general purpose as a chain. And that's how Polygon previously operated. You know, Polygon was like a little bit of gaming, it was a little bit of metaverse, it was a little bit of NFT. It was just too much, right? So like we've really honed in again on like the payments and the RWA aspect, and obviously like prediction markets are a big part of Polygon. So like with the deprecation of the chain, what we did is we launched like Katana, which is obviously a DeFi chain that utilizes like what ZK EVM was really meant to do, was become like a hyper-focused chain in something. And that's why obviously like Katana with DeFi has done so great overall. Again, Katana's a separate company, it does its own thing. They have a lot of like volume and things that are doing really great in like the DeFi and the yield perspective. But as far as like AgLayer goes, that focus is so much more aligned in why Polygon was created in its first like origin, right? We understand and we acknowledge that as much as we've added to this space, we've also fragmented it, right? Like we created bridging and swapping, like, you know what I mean? Essentially, like that was great, but it also was a very clunky process that wasn't as smooth as it should be, right? Taking liquidity from one chain and moving it to another chain. And that fragmented and put liquidity in multiple different buckets, and it kind of didn't allow the ecosystem to like rise up as fast as possible. So the goal of AgLayer is to really create a one-click solution where you can spend any token on any blockchain ever, right? So connecting all these blockchains together, and currently, if you go to aglayer.dev, there's a ton of different like chains that are already connected to the AgLayer, and we continue to grow that roster as well. People like Wilder World and Sentient and all these massive like IoTex, all these massive, very specific blockchains that handle a very specific goal, right? Like Lumia is one I always refer to. Lumia is RWAs. Like Lumia does great things in RWAs. They do institutional things. They're building like tokenization of different buildings and different real estate on blockchain. They're doing a lot of cool things on that side. IoTex is DPIN. Like DPIN for IoTex is the main thing. Then they do hardware and AI and interactions with those things and bringing the physical world onto the blockchain. So to have a place where you can have one singular operating system that you can take your pull, for instance, and spend it on Base in one click with a 5-second or less transaction time is solving the problem of fragmentation. Because if all the liquidity is free flowing between these chains, there's the opportunity that all these chains and all these like the token prices, but also like the ecosystem itself will rise up together. So it's solving liquidity fragmentation, but it's also solving the issue of data fragmentation, right? So right now, like data moving from chain to chain, it's getting better, and there's solutions that are calling back to it better. Obviously, you can refer to Chainlink and Layer 0 and all these different teams that are doing like integrations between different blockchains. But right now, teams have a very hard time of deciding where to build, right? They're like, oh, I need to go to Base, I need to go to Solana, I need to go to all these like Abstract, like all these chains that I think provide their own very unique value proposition, right? But they don't need to worry about that, and they shouldn't worry about that, because in a perfect world, they shouldn't have to worry like, oh, if I go to this ecosystem, I'm siphoning myself off from all these other places.
I'm
and one of
isolating
those
myself.
Yeah, right. And like you're putting yourself in a silo, right? Like that's not important. That's really bad for your growth in general. So if we had a place where not only liquidity free flowed, but also data free flowed from place to place, then there's the opportunity for those places to say, hey, I'm going to build on Base, but I might have one app that interacts on Polygon, and then I have one app that might go over to like Arbitrum. And if all these places interact together, then we have the idea that builders can just focus on building and not stress over having all their pieces in multiple buckets.
Exactly. And I want to ask you something because I'm not quite familiar. So you mentioned Katana, which has its own chain,
Mhm.
but basically the chain, is it similar like a shared security? Does it use Polygon security, like its own validators? How does exactly does it work?
Yeah, so it operates completely separate. It was built with OP Geth, so it's like the OP stack that like OP has, and it has like a lot of integrations on there. So well, how we say that we built Katana is that we incubated it, right? So it was incubated within Polygon, but it's its own brand, own chain, own security, own ecosystem, leveraging Ethereum obviously as the main security layer. But what Katana is really set to do is it has this very unique thing embedded in its bridging process. And people compare Katana to Blast, right? So Blast was like its own chain where you bridge over liquidity, you farm Blast gold, you do all these activities, and then hopefully something at the end you get money for that. That was unfortunately not that successful, right? But the unfortunately, like yeah, we all saw that. But with Katana, what we've created is something called Vault Bridge. And Vault Bridge is it's an interaction with the blockchain that says initially when the liquidity bridge is over, right? We actually put this into an active use case, which we're calling productive TVL. So TVL is a metric that everyone measures, like how much total value is locked in this ecosystem, right? Which is important. It's saying like, oh, these are all these dollars that are on this ecosystem. As those dollars grow, in theory, there's more apps that are used in this blockchain. So overall, those apps will grow, and the overall like token price grows. All these other things, right?
Yeah,
but
you still need volume, but yeah.
Right, you still need volume, but that's the entire purpose here, right? But in our mind, TVL is kind of like an outdated metric, because if that TVL just bridges and sits there, what does that mean, right? It's just dollars that are stagnant, and that's the worst thing. Where you, like you said, if you don't have volume, you don't have movement, then nothing's going to happen, right? So what productive TVL looks to accomplish, and what Vault Bridge is essentially as soon as you bridge over money to Katana, we're actually putting that money to work in yield from Morpho vaults. So it's automatically put into very low risk borrowing and lending that happens through Morpho. So automatically, as the TVL grows on Katana, the yield of the overall blockchain grows as well. So it has this innate idea that the TVL you're putting over is actually productive, right? And a lot of teams are asking like, whoa, you have like initially when you bridge over assets, it's literally generating revenue for Katana and for the greater ecosystem of the blockchain itself. So a lot of those teams, like, and you can use that revenue, like that passive yield from Morpho for anything. You can use it to sponsor gas fees, you can run campaigns, you can use it as literally just revenue for the company. And now a lot of teams are reaching out being like, whoa, you have a system that initially when people bridge over, you're automatically making passive yield on that, and that revenue is transacting, and we can do whatever we want with that yield. And it's like, yeah. So a lot of our teams now are like, well, can you build Vault Bridge for us? And we're like, absolutely, we can build Vault Bridge for us. So now Vault Bridge is its own product, right? It has the ability to do different things, and we can plug it into different new blockchains and existing blockchains that are being built right now. And so that's another product that we've launched, Vault Bridge itself, that is now one of those things that we're plugging into ecosystems so that their TVL can become productive as well.
And you mentioned actually, so besides Morpho, you mentioned Billions, you mentioned Katana. Which other projects live right now on Polygon today best showcase the network strength?
Man, all of these provide different value, right? And that's why, like, our entire purpose is that any product or any chain or any ecosystem that we connect with or launch, they have a specific purpose in general, right? And the ones that you're listing between Katana, Billions, like Maiden, they're all incubated projects. Like, they came internally from Polygon, and then they've like launched out into the ecosystem, right? And so, like, I think they all actually exhibit like their own unique strength. Like, Katana is DeFi, and it's the best DeFi experience that I've ever had because they have a native app on your desktop that you can do one-click solutions and have DeFi happening very quickly without a bunch of confusion of like, oh, like what's this pool mean? Like, oh, what's this pair mean? Like it's all handled for you, right? So it's a very easy user interface. Billions is handling the situation. It's handling the issue of privacy on chain, right? And so the whole issue with like data, right? As we know, when we attach like you go to freaking Amazon or you go to like eBay and you type in like your name, your address, your email, like all this kind of stuff. And then eventually, because this is how data happens, that data is leaked somewhere. And then you get a bunch of spam emails, a bunch of spam calls, and then your data is everywhere and you feel like you're unprotected. Your credit card gets stolen, all this kind of stuff. What Billions is solving for is essentially the KYC of ZK of ZK proofs, right? So you do one singular proving system that you are a real person, and then it's solving for like CAPTCHA, right? So like it's solving for, okay, this is a real human. I can trust that they're a real human, and they can plug into different systems and a lot of different blockchains, like Sentient's using it, a lot of different new tokens they're launching. They're using it for proof of humanity, right? Which is very unique in that aspect. In a real world, I say essentially like how I compare it to, if I go to a bar and I show my ID, there's no reason the bartender needs to know my name, my address, my phone number, like it doesn't need to, the bartender doesn't need to know that. The bartender needs to know that it's a real ID. That's all they need to know.
You are over 21.
Literally, yeah. It needs 2 verification points, that I'm of age and that I have this as my legitimate ID. It's issued by the state. It's the exact same thing that Billions is providing for on-chain transactions. It hides all your data, but it says this person is proven to be real, so therefore you can trust that you should transact with them. So all these chains and all these ecosystems, they just have their own unique use case, which is why we're very focused on, if you're building something, make it unique. Just make sure it's for a purpose.
Also, Courtyard with the tokenized Pokemon cards, which basically is a blend between RWA, NFTs, and a consumer app, which is a hottest thing right now because nobody does it in crypto. So that's something interesting. I didn't collect any Pokemon card in my life. I didn't even watch Pokemon, but this shit is crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, I got Squirtle hanging out behind me, right? I'm a big card guy. I got Shohei Ohtani in baseball hanging out behind me too. Like I'm a big Pokemon. Like there's Pokemon over here. There's like Pokemon cards on my desk, right? Like I'm a big Pokemon guy, right? And so Courtyard's one of the teams, and this is all built on top of Polygon, right? Our main chain. And they're one of the teams that I've worked with for over a year at this point. And I've been able to like see them grow from, 500,000 transactions to now they're topping out around like 70 to 80 million dollars per month, which is insane volume for
they exploded, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago,
like,
out of nowhere.
And over time they've grown, right? Eventually it was like 10 million per month, and then it was like 20 million, 30 million. Now it's doing like 70 to 80 million. It's insane volume overall, right? And their focus is providing digital twinning for what like real solutions and real physical assets are. It's very simple, right? There's a physical assets that's stored in a vault. It's a high security vault that Courtyard owns. You have an experience on the blockchain that you can pay with a credit card or USDC or Apple Pay. You click one button, a vending machine mechanism happens. So it's a gotcha machine, and it pulls you out a card instantly, and you see exactly what you have. And you can claim that. You can sell it back to Courtyard for 90% value, or whatever that value of the card is. If you got something higher than what you paid for, you can physically have it delivered to your address, or you can hold it or put it on their open market for 0% marketplace fees, right? So like, they are providing such unique utility for like on-chain and digital ripping, and it's super efficient, and 85% of their volume is coming from Web 2 users. So like crypto isn't even
goal.
Like it should be the goal. It's the exact same reason that Polymarket is having so much more success, because they are targeting Web 2 users and they're breaking out of what crypto, the little bubble that we have here, really does. So to see that volume overall and to see what they're doing, I couldn't be more bullish on the direction. Now they're breaking out of Pokemon cards and baseball and football cards and sports cards. Now they're doing comic books. And then soon they'll be doing more and more and more. And then they're going to have all these on-chain collectibles as they continue to grow and approach these different markets.
That's very interesting, because you're basically tapping into markets that don't have access, let's say maybe to eBay, to actually buy like some vintage comic book from the 80s, from the 70s. So you can do it all over the world, and you can invest, and maybe it's going to be like some life-changing decision that you're going to make on chain and be the rescue of your life.
Literally. And it's funny because like a lot of people are like, oh, like trading cards, aren't those like dying out? And like they're only growing. Like the sports collectibles market, the collectibles market in a whole, you know, it's a $3 trillion industry, and it's only estimated to like double in the next like 20 years. And it's because people have like emotional connections to things. They like to collect items, and they like to speculate on where these items are going, right? Pokemon has outpaced the S&P 500 over its existence by a very large margin. And a lot of these people are now saying like, okay, like this is kind of an interesting investment vehicle, right, for my money, to like collect things and then move things forward and see how like the IP grows and what the branding does over time. And so it definitely is very interesting, and I only see this industry accelerating. My one focus is consumer growth, and consumer RWAs is one of those focuses, and we'll definitely be having some very cool announcements within the next 6 months of teams that are coming on Polygon because of the success of Courtyard.
Yes, I'm really looking forward. And right now, I want to tap a little bit into the community side of Polygon, because I have the Master Guru here with me. So you basically launched a Kaito leaderboard in this summer. How do you see this shaping the narrative and the content quality around Polygon?
Yeah, and so this is something that we did very strategically, and I give all my love to like our community gurus, right? Like I come from community, but I worked in business development. I still involve myself in the community a lot. But Smokey, right? Like Smokey's our head of community at Polygon. He hosts a lot of big spaces. He has the Pudgy Penguin PFP. Like he does a lot of community engagement on that side. So he handles like Discord and Telegram and all these little apps, and X specifically as well too. And he was a very big like info-fi bull from the beginning. Like he was looking at leaderboards and looking how to grow and farming different things, and definitely like learning along the way. That's the biggest part that Smokey does well, is like if he's gonna jump into something, it's not just to get money out of it, it's like to really learn why it matters, right? Which is why he's jumped into it and why he does what he does. And so we looked at Kaito, and initially we actually launched the Katana leaderboard for Kaito, right? And so that was like the first test market of saying like, hey, we want a bunch of attention around like DeFi and what Katana is launching. And that did very well. Like the attention that it did was spiked insanely, because there was a bunch of DeFi super users that were looking for a very clean way to get more yield. And that's what Katana provided, right? You know, like 30, 40, 50% yield on like your stable coins, and like 20, 30% on your ETH and all this kind of stuff. Insane amount of opportunity there, right? And with that success, we said, okay, we can do this with our bigger ecosystem, which is Polygon, because there is so much to do on Polygon, right? We've already talked about Courtyard and Poly Market, but there's like tons of games to play, the staking opportunities that we have on Polygon with our reward system for airdrops that we've talked about. Like there's just unlimited amount of things that you can do in the Polygon ecosystem. And to see like the resurgence of what Polygon is doing has been really, really exciting, because now we have content creators and KOL relationships and really big groups that are saying like, damn, like there is something to respect that Polygon never stopped. Like Polygon, we never stopped building. We never gave up on our goals. We've been here longer than majority of people have. And while right, like 5 years in crypto, right? Like we just celebrated our 5-year anniversary.
40 years.
That's what I'm saying. Like we've survived everything at this point. So what? And people are always going to give attention to new shiny objects, right? And I think there's value in all ecosystem. I think there's value in Mega ETH and Monad and Abstract and all these new chains that are launching. I think I wish them the best. They should all connect to the Ag layer to get some liquidity for sure. But like I think they have value in their own places, right? But for us to be like a long-standing place that people can realize, like, all right, Polygon's not going anywhere. Like it's gonna be here. There's cool stuff you can do on it, and if I kind of believe in what the Polygon purpose is, then I can dive in deeper with this team and believe in them as well, and they'll support me. That's something really big that Smokey does well, is like he really tries to make sure that every single individual is cared about. And Mark does that as our CEO. Sandeep does that as our lead founder. I do that. Rudo does that. All of our community people that are out here on X, we really try to ensure that you understand that we are humans just as much as you are. We're just a different path on our journey, and you can rely on us to provide you all value and make sure that we continue to share in this journey, which is on the blockchain.
And you also guys have a community grants program that is basically designed to engage, reward, grow founders in the ecosystem. Do you see this expanding to include creators and content builders? I'm asking this because I actually saw Ruto putting out a tweet that he's looking for creators. I'm a part of a big creator community, so that's why I want to ask to see if it's any kind of opportunity coming from Polygon from creators.
Yeah,
Besides Kite, of
absolutely.
course.
Yeah, exactly. And then Kaido is like the starting point, and it kind of establishes like, okay, like we see you, right? As like that beginning portion of why we should be engaging in different creators. But it's going to extend in a lot of different ways. And I would suggest to all of our people who are out there looking to create and looking to, if you have a following, you have traction, you're looking to grow, reach out to Rudo directly, and he's happy to jump on a call with anybody, right? And have a conversation over what that connection can look like. But I also want to highlight that this is going to extend past CT. Like it is going to extend into different ecosystems. Like
Yeah,
for the
TikTok,
last
for example.
heavily.
I've seen your TikTok page, and I don't know
Nice.
where you get those numbers, dude. Those
Yeah, and
are great numbers.
Yeah, and I've calmed down a little bit on TikTok because I've had to with work, and CT has been a big focus of mine for the last month or so now. So I've had to kind of lock in on those purposes, but I will definitely be kicking off TikTok again. It's just timing for me. But what we've done is we've seen that like a lot of people that are having traction and a lot of ecosystems that are older, like ours is, like, you know, XRP, Algorand, Polkadot, like all these things, I call them dino coins, and I would put us in the same place where like we're older, right? We're as old as dinosaurs at this point. A lot of these places, the platforms where people are learning about them, they're not on crypto Twitter, right? They're not, and they're on TikTok, they're on YouTube, they're on Instagram, and so Rudo is putting together a big campaign over what KOL connections look like on multiple different ecosystems, right? And because I've essentially test marketed that, we call it dog fooding, right? Like before you serve your meal, you eat your meal yourself, right? And so I went over to TikTok for 6 months, and I just preached what Polygon is meant to do, right? And I was educating people, I was hosting live streams, I was doing all this work to ensure that people understand like what Polygon is all about. And the traction that we got alone proved that we should be there. So now we're jumping into it full go, and we're really diving into what TikTok and all these different platforms can really mean to us. And over the next month and a half, 2 months, the team's gonna, like, everyone's gonna see some very unique things come out of us from different channels.
Do you see, like, basically I do this podcast and I do a bunch of clippings after that because nobody watches like long form content. I mean, who does in 2025? Do you see something like this actually working on TikTok? Of course, editing them 9/16 and that.
Yeah, I do, honestly, and a lot of these one account that I always point people towards for like these kind of interviews and like podcast style is Uniswap. Like Uniswap is doing a lot of like storytelling through Web3. Like they're talking about like Bitcoin Pizza Day and like, you know, all these weird events that have happened, like meme coin hype and all these like different like catalysts that we've had over this entire blockchain experience. And so I would highly suggest like anybody that's creating in Web3, if you're looking for a new audience, if you're trying to reach more real like retail, if you're looking to expand yourself past just like what CT really means, jump into these platforms and just start creating. And eventually you'll learn the algorithm better. Eventually you'll connect with more creators. Eventually you'll build a little community, and then people will realize that like, all right, like you're here for the right purposes. I can believe in you because you're providing me this value. Also, like specifically for people like yourselves and people that are like in this industry and are approaching this from a professional perspective, TikTok needs us. Like there's not many people that aren't just like, hey, I'm a token guru. Like, look at this chart with me all day long, and I'll teach you how to buy coins and do that kind of stuff. They don't have many industry professionals that are willing to coach them through how to do things in the ecosystem that we operate. Like, we need educators over there for sure.
Yeah, and I actually saw, I don't know if today or yesterday because everything moves so fast, that they're actually awarding crypto content creators TikTok.
Yeah, absolutely. And they should be doing it more often. And a lot of these InfoFi platforms are going to be doing the same exact thing.
Yeah, because Kaito actually expanded to Instagram, right? I don't know if TikTok, but I saw something with Instagram.
They did do it. So they're doing initial like lookovers of like what it looks like overall to integrate. Obviously, like their AI is super complex and it's super deep, and to integrate that AI into like spoken word video is hard, right? So it's going to take time, but I definitely see them pivoting into that very aggressively so that there can be more opportunities for different creators to grow inside that ecosystem.
How important do you feel personal brand is today to actually make it in crypto, land a job, win some attention, learn?
So like, this is interesting. There's two ways that you break into crypto for working. And it's skill based or it's like connection based, right? Like I would say a lot of people, and there's people inside my company that do not interact on Twitter at all, right? And they've gone to school, they have specific like skills, they've worked inside of like different industries or different like
So it's
tech
more like
sectors.
corporate.
Right. Yeah, there's corporate
The
side of this.
classical corporate side and the more the classic approach.
Right. It's 50-50, I would say, right? And those are people that are very well trained and they understand how blockchain works and they grow and they do those things in a very specific thing. Now, personal branding, like I think it's an X factor though. Like, you know what I mean? Like I can also do all those things. Like I know infrastructure just as well as some of our other people on our team that don't have a personal brand on X, right? I know like how blockchains work and I know how proofing works and I know how our ecosystem works inside and out to a point that I could explain it just as well as they could. But I also have this X factor that says like, hey, I have a good amount of followers, I get good engagement, people like are looking at me for like advice, and then I hop on spaces and I have big conversations and people are like, damn, like Nill's got some motion on here, that's good. And so and a lot of my leads on the BD side, they come from crypto Twitter now, right?
Yeah,
like
I actually put a tweet about this 5 days ago, something like that. Since I've built my personal brand, I can reach out to people like I reach out to you.
right.
You know? And
It's
actually
building
works.
trust.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Well, because like people want social proofing that you're not just some stranger that's going to do whatever it is. And like honestly, like security wise, like regardless of who it is, regardless of how much security there is, I'm always running the links through like a link checker, being like, hey, is this a scam? Like, hey, this link, is this legit? You know, you have to, right? Like, because there's been a lot of like instances where like there's a legit reach out, it looks like a good brand, they bought a Twitter account, there's a bunch of like verified followers or like shared followers, but it's still not legit, right? So I always check things. That's a security thing that everyone should run through. But if I'm seeing you like in my posts and then I'm seeing you like actually like for you all, I jumped into like the platform that you all have and like the different Twitter accounts, and I saw like all the interviews with prominent people that I also know as well. So that's easily to build trust, right? And so for building that personal brand, it can just set you apart from everybody else that is running in the same race. Like everybody is looking for an opportunity to work in crypto or to make a big trade or to get early access to alpha or whatever it is. Like everyone's trying to be early to whatever they're doing out here, whatever their goals are, right? But for me personally, my goal was always to be a professional in this space. From the very first day that I entered and I realized that people were building brands here, I was like, listen, you know, I get offers every single week. Post about this token, post about this platform, we'll give you $5,000, like all this kind of like, that's fine. I don't want that to be what I'm known for. Like,
No, you have a reputation of a professional and you ruin that by
right. And I don't want to, like, if I had short-term vision and like I wanted that to be what I'm about and like making money quickly, I could do that. Like that's an opportunity that I have with my Twitter account, and I could host spaces for people that I didn't believe in. But I can't. Like, I don't have it inside of me because I see this as my professional development forever. Like, a lot of people, like, you know, humans as in their nature, they're always looking for like this, like, oh, what is my purpose, right? Like, what am I meant to do in this world, right? Like, we all have this like thing when we're a little kid. Like, you look up at the stars and you're like, damn, I want to do something big. And 5 years ago, I fell in love with this place. Like I felt, and I felt that my purpose was to be here and impact how this tech grows and impact the accessibility that it gives to people and how they tell their story. And now I get to live that. So why would I cut that off by taking a bunch of quick money? Instead, I can set my sights out on 10 years or 20 years or 30 years from now and look back at the whole body of work and be like, yo, Nill, like you were able to build this industry and provide people value, and people trusted you, and that will be so much more fulfilling than making, you know, $30,000 in a month's time frame because I just took a bunch of money quickly, and I can feel better about my accomplishments over time. That's much more fulfilling for me than making a bunch of money quickly with things I don't really believe in.
What do you feel are the best tips and tricks for building a strong personal brand?
Yeah, like I always say something about this, and people at this is even more important right now at this stage of the cycle. You have to obsess over something. Like you have to become knowledgeable in something specific that people go to you for those insights specifically, right? So like for me, it's Polygon. Like for me, it's growth on X. For me, it's motivation. Like I post out a lot of tweets, or you know, in this cycle, that it's like very much like, yo, like you can make it if you do X, Y, Z, and I am here with you. Like I want you to understand that I am just as much in this grind as you all are. Like I want you to ride with me. And so those like few things of being like an expert in like my field of layer 2s on Polygon has always been like my consistent thing. Then I started growing aggressively on X, and I brought in the growth tips of like, hey, replying is important, being unique, showing your own self, like, you know, doing all these things, jumping in spaces. Like that's my unique like growth value aspect. And then like I'm a coach by trade. Like I coach high school lacrosse. I've always been involved in sports. Like I've been a
That's
captain.
so cool.
Yeah, I've been a captain on every team I've played for, right? So I've always been the guy who knows I have this ability to like motivate people in the same direction, right? So I use those three specific like portions of my life to say like, here's why Polygon is amazing and why you should be involved with it. Here's how you can grow professionally and on X to build your brand. And this is why you should be motivated to do so. And those three things specifically resonate with a lot of people. They're different audiences, but they all kind of align very similarly. So I focus on those things. I'm obsessed with growth. I'm obsessed with becoming better, right? Like I'm going to listen back to every single minute of every single podcast or live stream or whatever I'm on, because I want to become better as a professional speaker and present myself more efficiently and effectively overall. So I definitely look at this as like I'm always growing with people, and regardless of if the first stage of 100 followers or you're at 16,000 or 20,000, 100,000, you can always improve yourself. So I definitely think that it's just always making sure that you don't make it the goal of like hitting certain milestones. You make it the goal of always just accelerating your own self and growing and finding your purpose out here. So I definitely think that obsessing over a few different things and leaning into them and making sure that they're your passion. Like you don't want to have to create something because you become known for something and you hate it. Right. That's
Yes.
when it's like another job. And then
That's bananas, man.
Right. And then it's another job. And you're like, damn, like I really hate this. Like, but everyone knows me for being this guy. Like, I'm never going to be the funniest guy. I'm never going to be the best trader. I'm never going to be the best technical analysis of how different blockchains work. But I will be good enough to understand how things go. But goddamn, I will be the best bull poster and the best motivator and the best Polygon person that I could possibly be, because I know that's what fuels me every single day. Because those things alone, Polygon for me has given me everything. It's given me opportunity in my life. It's changed my family's lives. It's done things for me professionally that I could never have imagined, right? I travel all over the world doing these conferences, doing all these things. It's amazing for me. So I have a duty to our people to give that back, because that's what blockchain was meant for.
Yeah, and I feel the same way, because before I was in crypto, I worked in media, in cinema. So I only had like producer jobs. So basically managing resources, financial, technical, humans, yada, yada. And the boss that I worked for had like a conglomerate. So he had like production companies, news stations. Kind of at some point in time here in Romania, because I'm from Romania, he had like everything, every media company, he had like a monopoly. So of course he asked me like, you should put your face and let's see maybe how do you look like actually being on TV. And I was so fucking afraid. I never did. And then I started in crypto, and crypto made me actually become a better person doing this kind of stuff that in my head I never would have done it. And now I can do this comfortably with you and meet people all around the world and have interesting discussions about how we can grow as a society, as professionals into this industry.
Yeah, I mean, another tip I give people is like you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like there are still times where I'm like in a conversation, I'm like, damn, I don't know enough here to be here. Like I don't like I get into a conversation about AI, or like I get into a conversation about like different tech stacks, and I'm like, damn, like I need more knowledge here. And all that does is motivate me to learn more, right? But being uncomfortable, like when I started speaking on spaces, I mean, like I got anxiety. Like I get anxious with different things, and like, yeah, right. Like we all do at different levels of it, but like that scares the shit out of me for some aspect. And there's still times where I go on a stage and I'm like, all right, like there's a lot of really high level people around you. Like you're definitely, and it's good. You don't want to be the smartest person in any room that you're in, or else go to a different room, right? Like I don't want to be the smartest person ever. So like being comfortable with being uncomfortable is like the other biggest tip I give people, because once you overcome that like hurdle, then you actually find real growth.
What do you feel keeps you motivated? Is it family? Is it the community? Keeping up day by day.
Yeah, it's both, man. I'll highlight three things here. Like my number one role as a person is to be the best parent and husband that I could possibly be. I'm a father to a 2-year-old. I got another one on the way. Like my wife relies on me. Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate that. So my wife is a professional as well too. Like my wife is 1,000 times smarter than I am, so she has her own professional role.
The better
like,
I have.
Yeah, literally. But she also she also has motivated me to do this, right? Like she said when I was grinding at like 2 a.m. and hosting spaces and doing all this stuff, she was like, I know you love this. Like keep pushing, keep doing it. I know that you can do this. Like she was massively motivated this to me. So she, for 4 years until I found a full-time job, like said, keep going. Like you got this. I know you have passion for this. You're going to figure this out, right? But now with all the, she's got a master's degree. She's a chemical engineer. She's super smart, right? She's on top of, she's insanely intelligent, right? Now all she wants to do is be a mom. You know what I mean? Like she just wants to sit back and be a mom for a few years and pick the kids up from school and be the best mom possible. So all of her energy goes in that direction. Beautiful thing. My role as the husband and now the father is to ensure that I can work as hard to make that a reality for her. Right. So I am putting myself in the professional perspective that is motivating me as well, too, to get my wife to a place where she can just take a second to breathe and just be a mom. That's my first thing. The community motivates me, and these next two are like very tied, I would say. Community motivates me a ton because I know that people are looking to me for insights for how they can have success. So I feel I'm somebody, again, with my sports background, with coaching, with all the things I do, like I don't feel like I've made it until other people around me have made it as well. So like when I got my professional role, I started bringing people in and saying like, hey, you need to work here. Like you should work here. Like you should join over this organization, and extending my professional connections to other people. That's something I've massively done. And now I know that like there's people at all levels of this growth cycle for professional branding on X or other places. And so now I know that I need to help those people just as much because I was that person once as well too.
They're paying forward.
100%. I say this 1,000 times. I stand on the shoulders of giants that already did this for me when I was just getting started. If I didn't have those people doing what they did for me early on, there is no way that I changed my entire life and I do everything I did. So who would I be if I didn't pay that forward as well too to others? I would just be a hypocrite. So I will always make sure I give back to my community in that way because it's my duty to do so. It's what the blockchain was created to do. Make sure that it's not just about you, it's about us collectively. And the last thing that motivates me is my team. The Polygon team is so unique with the way that we push each other and the way that we extend ourselves into different departments. I could sit back and just do my BD role, and would we have success? Probably, right? Like we would probably have success because we are Polygon and we've done a lot. We've been here for a while. We would continue to survive on. Now, do I want us to have casual success? No. I want us to have success at the levels that everybody is thinking about Polygon as the perfect solution for why they wouldn't build on a layer 2, and the perfect solution with the ag layer for interoperability and all these things, right? So what do? I make sure that I extend myself into different departments. So I extend myself into the marketing team, and make sure that I'm making them aware of different trends that I'm seeing on socials, and making sure that they are aware of what my asks from my teams are. So when Courtyard has an ask, and I flag that down early, like I do all these extra steps to make sure that they feel like they can rely on me and extend myself as much as possible there, right? I extend myself into the community team. I extend myself into the product team. So I give feedback on these things. I make sure that it's not just about, oh, BD is going to do things. I make sure that we're all working together like a big clock and all the cogs are moving in the right direction, because that is how our team will have success. And my people do the exact same, because I know when they have a BD question or a social question, whatever it is, they need somebody to rely on. And so it's a very much like personal relationship that we've built internally to motivate each other to do the best for that. So it's definitely those three things that motivate me the most.
And before we wrap this up, Nill, and once again, thank you a lot for your time. What advice would you give to builders that want to enter to the Polygon ecosystem? Where should they start?
Yeah, man. And this is a good question as well, too. For starters, just if you want to build here, fall in love with what our ethos is. Like our ethos, like our literal mission statement is to build blockchain technology in a trustless environment so anybody can do anything they want, right? Like that is our mission statement, right? And so to say that is to say that like we don't want to limit you by just like having you in a silo, right? So like, should you be building on Polygon because you have a unique solution? You think that Polygon is really efficient and we're going to provide good resources? Absolutely. But if you need to build a little bit on Polygon, a little bit somewhere else, we encourage you to do so, right? So we're not this team that's going to be like, oh, like only build here, do this, do that.
Exclusivity.
But, right, yeah. So build where you're comfortable, but realize that Polygon's a great option. So if you fall in love with that ethos of allowing you to do whatever you want, but also believing in what our mission is, you're built for Polygon. And realize that we are going to win a very specific places, obviously with RWAs we touched on, with our different utilities in payments, with consumer apps. Like we're going to win in a lot of these places for sure. And ingrain yourself in those goals and ingrain yourself in the community itself, and you will feel more connected to the goals that Polygon has overall. And then that's when you realize like, okay, like Polygon's super unique because they have unique builders that are already here, a community that will support me, resources from the team directly. And on top of that, we really care. Like our people truly, where it's not a business like relationship where it's like, okay, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing the other thing. Like I want my apps to have so much success that they don't even remember that we exist. Like Courtyard should not even realize that Polygon exists at some point, because it's seamless. Polymarket, exact same thing. Like all these breakout places, Step In, like all these places, like, they don't need to realize that we exist, because they should be focused on nothing but their build. So initial builders should be focused on just creating the best user experience possible. Allow us to provide the resources, to, like lean on us for all the aspects that you're missing on, but also realize that you can go anywhere and build anything, and you can always call Polygon home, because that's the way that we're going to approach things.
Wow, Nill, it really was a great conversation. I really learned a lot, and I love your energy. This is the kind of energy that we need in crypto.
Yeah. Always going to approach it.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, man, I'm always out here working for us, and thank you for the outreach, the way that you've engaged with my account, the branding that you're pushing out, what you're all are doing with BlockHunters. Like, this is why we build things, right? Because we want to make sure that people understand we're here for a greater purpose, and it aligns with the way that you all are building as well. So I really appreciate the opportunity, man.
Thanks a lot, Nill. Have a great time.
Always.